Hi everybody. This tutorial today is going to be going over the Flash toolbar. You can find the Flash toolbar over here on the left hand side of my screen. You can also, if you don't see it there, it might be under a different layout you have over here. Like for example, if you go under Essentials, you see the toolbars over to the right hand side of the screen. Personally myself, I have my own little layout which I cover on a different podcast. And I like my toolbar over here. Okay, well I just want to pre-warn you that this tutorial is going to be a little bit longer than other tutorials, but there's a lot of useful information here, so please pay attention. And I'm going to try to make it be as quick and painless as possible. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to go over is these tools right here. Over here is the rectangle tool. And any of these toolbar icons, just want to show if you hold your cursor over it long enough, it'll tell you what the tool is. And also in parentheses over here, it'll give you a hotkey for it, which is R. And some tools have this little drop down arrow. If I click on it, it gives you other stuff like oval, rectangle primitive, oval primitive. Real quick, I'm going to show you the difference between the rectangle tool and the rectangle primitive, along with the oval tool and the oval primitive. So let's real quick go ahead and make a rectangle, or a square, whatever it may be. And I'm going to make another one, but it's going to be a primitive. Also, I want to stress, if you hold down Shift, you can make a perfect square. Same thing with circles. You hold down Shift, you can make a perfect circle, not an oval. Now if you see right away, the difference is that this rectangle, the primitive, has these four little purple dots at the end of it. That's just representative it's a primitive. You cannot change the shape of a primitive. What I mean by that is if I go ahead and use my selection tool and hover over it, you see this little squiggly line that shows up. If I click on that squiggly line, it kind of gives me the opportunity to stretch it around. If I also go to the corner, you get this little right angle looking thing. I can move the corner. That just shows I have the corner of it. Unfortunately, on this right here, you don't get that option at all. So pretty much the primitive is what you get. I rarely use the primitive because I like to change my shapes around. So I just want to show you the difference of that right there. Now, while I have these up, I'm going to delete the primitive. I want to show you I showed you the selection tool. You can move things. You can select them. You can marquee select stuff and select certain areas. You can select only the fill, which is this area. It's pretty cool. This is called the sub selection tool. Hotkeys A. What you do is when you select something, if you can barely see right here, you got these little dots. These dots are anchor points. That's what the sub selection tool shows you. Matter of fact, I'm going to real quick get rid of the fill so you can see a little bit better. There you go. So if I grab these anchor points, as you see a little Bezier curve going on. It's just another way of manipulating the shape and getting the kind of shape you want. And this is going to also bring you to my next tool. I'm going to skip down the list. It's called the pen tool. The pen tool draws with the stroke, which is right here. I'm going to change the stroke to red. If I click, every time I click, it makes a Bezier curve, just like you saw with the sub selection tool. If I go on ahead and click on a Bezier curve, I can again change the way things look. Also, I can add a Bezier curve, or I can delete the Bezier curve, or anchor points, also known as. If I click under here, you see add anchor point, delete anchor point. So I got the delete anchor point. I click on one and it's gone. I click on that one and it's gone. Click on that one and it's gone. You can just click all day and delete these guys. It's pretty cool. If I want to add an anchor point, same thing. I just click on it, and there you go. I got another anchor point. I can go on the sub selection tool, hotkey A, and again I can click on these bad boys. You see this little dot showing? I can click on it, and I can go ahead and make a Bezier curve with it, which right now Flash is not allowing me to do that because it's a hard right angle. You can't do that on hard right angles. So if I go ahead and add another Bezier curve here, or another anchor point, this one should let me do it. Sometimes Flash is a little finicky. It doesn't allow you to do that. Okay, well let's go ahead and move on here. I'm going to go ahead and just clear my stage. This right here is a transform tool. Also, we got the gradient transform tool. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and draw another square real quick. And I kind of want to use a rectangle, not a primitive. There we go. So if I go ahead and click my transform tool, You click on this, a lot like Photoshop, it allows you to transform stuff. You can hold down Shift and scale stuff evenly. You see the leftovers there is my stroke. I'm just going to get rid of that. Q is the hotkey for the transform. I can skew stuff. I can rotate it. You know, there's a lot more options also. If you look down here, you can see there's rotate and skew, there's scale, there's distort, and envelope. Another place to find these is under transform, and it's all right here. You can also rotate it. You can flip it vertical, flip it horizontal. You won't be able to tell because it's a perfect square right now. One of my favorites is distort. I'll show you why here in a second. If I want to make a road or something, give like a nice little perspective going on. There we go. Now I got a little perspective. That's pretty cool. I can modify. I can go ahead and flip this guy horizontal. I can flip him vertical. There's all kinds of stuff I can do with this. Envelope, another one of my personal favorites. You got all these Bezier curves. You can just come up in here and warp things, make it all messed up. You know, now I got a little twisted looking shape going on. Who knows? Alright, so that's just how the transform tool works. Now I want to show you the transform gradient tool. In order to get the transform gradient tool to work, well, I'm going to have to get a gradient on there. This is the paint bucket tool, and it fills your shape with the fill color. So if I turn it green, there it is. Or if I unselect it, I can go ahead and pick something else like blue and then click on it, and there you go. Now let's say I want to make this into a gradient. Everybody loves gradients, they're beautiful. I go over here to my color palette next to my properties. If that's not on, you can go under window and you can see it under color right here, and there it is. Right here I got the fill color highlighted. I can go down over here and I can hit linear gradient, I can hit radial gradient. There's all kinds of stuff. Now there you go, there's my radial gradient. If I want to change this around, I can have it, I can go ahead and choose the gradient transform tool, and what this does allows me to make it smaller, allows me to make it larger. I can rotate it, I can skew it like this. It's pretty cool. If I have this gradient tool on, I can go into my color palettes and I can change it right here, which under black is the color I have. I can make that red, and as you can see it turns red. I can go ahead and take this one, let's see here, I can make it blue, and then it turns blue. Keep in mind, if your color doesn't look like this, I'm under hue, which is this H right here. You also have saturation and other ways to select color. RGB, personally, I like the hue. It's a lot easier for me to see. I can see this little plus, I can add more colors to it. It automatically chooses a color in between there. Let's say I want to change that color to, I don't know, green. There you go, I got a cool looking crazy gradient going on here. Now say if I want to change this into a linear gradient. There you go, now it's linear. And I can also, the gradient transform tool looks a little bit different, but acts the same. You can rotate it, all kinds of stuff. So let's go on. Enough of that. This right here is the 3D rotation tool. I can cover that in a different podcast, the podcast and so on, so I'm going to skip that right now. So lasso tool works just like the selection tool. You just kind of lasso around the area that you want to select, and there you go. Anyways, so we're going to go ahead and clear the screen. Let's go to the text tool. We went over the pen tool. This is the text tool. If you go into your properties right here, it shows you all the stuff that can go on with your text tool. You got your font right here. You choose a different font. I like the Sports Night. It's pretty cool. I downloaded it offline in case you can't find it. This is your letter spacing. I like to keep it at 0. That's the spacing of the font that originally comes. And this is your font size. So you can drag it however you want. And this is your color. So let's see here. We'll just do color blue just to show you. I go 35 font. I'll click on the screen and let's type in something. There you go. I'm not egotistic, I swear. I'm not fooling myself. But, you know, I am the man. Anyways, so if I want to click out of that, there you go. You can also do other cool things with this. You can select it. You can make the letter spacing a little bit wider or smaller. It's pretty cool. That's what the letter spacing is. You can also have this selected before you type. So if I type the text tool again and hit letter spacing 22 and then type again. Oh, letter spacing's at 0, I lied to you. There we go. It's at 24. As you can see, there it is. A little bit different. You can also transform these guys. You can go under the transform tool and you can scale it, you can skew it. Only thing you can't do is you can't do the distort or the envelope. It's grayed out, as you see. There's some, there's a limit to what Flash can do. Unfortunately, I think it would be pretty cool to distort it, give it a little Star Wars effect, but you can't. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on. We're almost done, but bear with me here. This is the pencil tool. The pencil draws with your stroke. My stroke color is red, and it draws with the stroke. Now you see, it looks all rough and then it smooths out. That's because if I look under here, I have my smoothing up to 100. You can change the smoothing through here, smooth. I can also go, if I can put it on straight, I can go like this, and it'll make a straight line for me. See? No matter how crooked it is, up to an extent. Flash is not perfect, but see, that's a pretty straight line. Alright, so that's one way of drawing in Flash. But if I also was to take my sub selection tool and look, it makes a crazy amount of anchor points. So as I'll be going over a different tutorial, there's a thing called shape tweening, and you want to keep your anchor points to a minimum. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do all kinds of tweens, anchor points, you want them as a minimum. So it's not a really good tool to use. I skipped one. This is the line tool, one of my personal favorites. This is how I personally get, how I draw my objects out. Alright, so I draw a line. Again, it uses the stroke. I hold down V, and I can pluck it. There's 2 anchor points on here. I can show you with the sub selection tool. 1, 2. So that keeps my anchor points to a minimum. Now, say I want to have another anchor point in here. Instead of going to the pen tool and adding an anchor point like this, which you can do, I'm going to show you an easier way. A little shortcut, as you will. So, if I hold down Option, I can actually make an anchor point. If you don't believe me, sub selection tool, there it is. Hold down Option again, I can make another anchor point. This is my preferred way of drawing. So, I can pluck it. I don't have to really mess with Bezier curves. I don't really like Bezier curves. It gives me nightmares about rotoscoping. Anyways, so that's just another way of drawing. A lot of people will draw out their gestures with a tablet, with the pencil or the paint tool, and then they'll get nice clean lines with the line tool. That's usually how it's done. Alright, well let's go on to the paint tool. Works very similar with the brush tool as the pencil tool, but it uses the fill, not the stroke. Again, it has a smoothing option over here to smooth it out as you draw. But also, if you go really slow, it makes it pretty wide. If you go really quick, it makes kind of weird tapering right here. You can also click this right here, and this is use the pressure of your tablet. So if I have a tablet right now and I push really hard, it'll make it really thick. If I push really thin, it'll make the line really thin. That's how you get that stylized look. But I got a mouse, so it's not really working for me. But if I had a tablet right now, it would work. Over here, this is your brush size, pretty self-explanatory. This is your brush tip. If you want a circle, square, oval, all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to go ahead and go down. This is one of my favorite tools. This is the Art Deco tool. Now what the Art Deco tool does, if you go under your library, this is very cool. It's a tutorial in itself. Please play with it. I got it under Vine Fill. Let's just say I go building brush. Alright, what kind of brush do I want? We'll go skyscraper 1. Building size, we'll make it 10. Now if I draw, there it is. There's my skyscraper. You want skyscrapers? You got it, boss. You want it a little smaller? Let's go 4. A little smaller. You know what? I want skyscraper 2. There you go. There's the second skyscraper. I don't know. Let's go random buildings. Let's just make a city real quick. Really cool. Keep in mind though that this is not original. People who know Flash know you use this tool. So, don't use it too often. But it's pretty cool. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on here. You can go ahead and get trees. Ooh, I got trees all day. So people can recognize this. You can change your fruit color, your leaf color, branch color. Again, people do recognize this from Flash, and it also bogs down your computer because it has a lot of anchor points and it's pretty thick on the memory card. Another cool thing, like one of my personal favorites, you got like Vine Fill. You can go under all these options. Just a quick little idea of what it does. Wow, look at that. That is a priceless design. I tell you what, if you're getting underpaid for a job and they don't know anything about Flash, just do that for them. You get paid for that design right there. Anyways, just don't get caught. I'm going to go ahead and delete that off also. Art Deco brush. Really cool. Just don't use it too often. The bone tool I'm going to show in a different tutorial. It kind of makes puppet strings for any characters you use. Although it's not, in my opinion, not the way to go when it comes to animating. We just went over the paint bucket tool earlier. And we went over we didn't go over the ink bottle tool though. I'm going to show you the ink bottle tool is. It's pretty cool. Go ahead and draw a square. Say I erase the stroke and I want a border around here. Ink bottle tool. I can change the stroke color. I don't know, green. I can make the stroke a little wider. As soon as I click on it, bam, gives me a stroke again. So pretty much, if you don't have a stroke, that's how you add a stroke to it. Ink bottle tool. All right, let's move on. This is the eyedropper tool. Pretty much what it does is, say I draw a blue square, and I want a red, and I draw a red square. Now I want to change back to that blue I had. I'll take my eyedropper, click, and my blue is right there. So pretty much it's just a copy of color. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. This is the eraser tool. You can erase everything. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, this is what is cool about it, is we click right here, this is erased normally. You click erase fills, it only erases the fill. It keeps the stroke. You click erase lines, it only erases the stroke or the line. You go ahead and click erase selected fills. I have to select the fill. Start erasing. It won't erase that fill, but erase the fill that's selected. And there's one more on here. Let's see what it was. Erase inside. It's just exactly what it sounds like. Erases inside, not the stroke. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on. This is the hand tool. Allows you to navigate. You just click on the screen and pull. Shortcut to this is spacebar. I use that way more often than I actually use the hand tool itself. So spacebar, remember that. That's how you navigate. Then this is the zoom tool. A lot different than the Photoshop zoom tool. You don't hold down Z and hit left and right to zoom. You actually click on plus or minus. So if I want to zoom out, I hit minus. If I want to zoom in, I hit plus down here at the bottom in case you didn't see that where my cursor is. If you hold down option, you can see that the cursor goes from plus to negative. So I hold down option, I can do the opposite. Now if you ever get lost when you're zooming around, I'm going to show you quick little hotkeys that are pretty cool. Command 2 shows your full stage. Command 1 shows a little bit farther, and Command 3 zooms in. So Command 2, Command 1, Command 3. So if I had to zoom in and I don't know where I'm at, hit Command 2, bam, right on with the stage. So just remember that hotkey Command 2. I can be all the way over here, don't know where I'm at. I can zoom in on this. Where am I? Command 2, there I am. Alright, well that pretty much covers the tutorial. You pretty much know what the stroke and fill color is by now, and these are the swap the colors. And this is to go back to black and white. It's pretty self-explanatory. Thanks for bearing with this tutorial. It is a little bit longer than my others. I try to keep them short. Alright, have a good one.